I thought that that dam removal site looked much more attractive as well as just more healthy for the fish and other wildlife. I'm going to switch the layout that we have and to our question and answer layout. And what that's going to allow is that any participant who wishes can type in questions and submit them. And you don't have to worry about interrupting the flow of the conversation because your questions are going to go off to a little question bank on the side. And then what will happen is we'll release them one at a time and Greg will answer them. So you can go ahead and submit any question that you wish right now and it'll go into the bank. Also, I have the questions that you sent in early. I'll use those at the beginning and if we have a slow point, but do feel free to ask your own question that you posted or another one. We won't be able to get to all of them tonight, so if yours was very important to you, go ahead and ask it yourself. I can see several people are typing. I'm going to start with a question from Margaret that had to do with your last slide. And so Margaret asks, whoops. And so Margaret asks, what would the DNR appreciate students do as far as projects involving streams and rivers? And I'm going to turn the mic back over to you.
Okay, this is always a tough question for me. There's if you look at the backyard and urban conservation, there's probably some ideas in there. I think there's some examples of some projects that uh, students have done is in the realm of urban conservation or around their schools. Um, I guess one of the things that I think is just really important is to to get kids out um, and learning about streams and seeing for themselves all the neat stuff that there is. We take kids out and show them, all the bugs that live on the rocks and the fish in the stream and things like that, and they find it really fascinating. And I think anything we can do to get more people to see the value in streams and stream ecosystems is a positive. And hopefully they can pass that along and help educate other people.
Greg, I'm going to pop open that backyard and urban conservation website just so that everyone can see it. So I'm going to click Browse to, and what it should do is open that web page somewhere on your screen. If you didn't already have a browser open, then it probably popped up on front. If you already have one open, it may have opened just a new tab in a screen behind. So you might have to look for it a little bit. But I did just browse everyone to Backyard and Urban Conservation. This is the site that he's recommending. And you can see here they divided it into backyard and urban. I have placed this link into the course as well. So you'll be able to go to the course under Iowa Water Resources in the web links section and get to this at a later time. And now I have a question from Jeremy. Jeremy asks, with global warming a big piece of what we hear about, what effects are you seeing, if any?
One of the biggest uh, climate changes that they've tracked in Iowa is that we've seen increases in precipitation over the last several years, or through the last several decades. There's Precipitation has been increasing in Iowa, and one of the that has tremendous effects on the streams. One thing that people don't think about is that any additional rainfall, it's not. Uh, I guess I'll back up. That the watershed has the ability to absorb a certain amount of water, and the rest of it goes to the streams. So once you hit that point of what the watershed can absorb, anything additional causes uh, a lot bigger rises in the stream than you would think of, just because everything else is saturated. So it is a concern. I talked about the different components to what streams look like and how they try to balance their sediment and water, and the effect of having more flow going down the streams. Those channels have to adjust, so it results in more erosion of stream banks and things like that. And in that regard, that makes it all that much more important to try to put practices in place on the landscape that slow that water down and try to retain it and move it to the streams more slowly, versus all of it coming at once, all that excess precipitation.
Shannon asks, she says, I live on the Mississippi River. I do not have water that is clear around here. I'd love to have the opportunity to work in a freshwater stream, that, something like what you've pictured. What projects do elementary students who do not have access to streams, more of an in-town, so what could students in an urban setting really do to, is there anything they could do to help with our stream water quality?
Okay. Yeah, I would encourage you again to look at the backyard and urban conservation. There's some projects that have been done, to stencil storm sewers and things like that to remind people that whatever goes down into the storm sewer ends up in a stream, so they don't dump oil or other chemicals, just to get rid of, thinking it's not going to hurt anything. Um, there's also some ideas in there in regards to things like rain gardens, ways of diverting uh, like drainage off of gutters and things like that into places where they can sink into the ground versus running off. Um, so I'd encourage you to look. I think that would give a lot of ideas of things you could do, especially in an urban setting, that would have positive impacts on streams. Um, in our state, a lot, the agriculture affects the biggest area, but some of the impacts in urban areas can be, more concentrated uh, and have a big local impact. So I guess a lot of what I talked about was referred to the more rural areas and the issues there, but there's also issues in the urban areas that can be addressed, and I think George may talk about that some too. And I'd also like to mention that the site I referred you to, we have in the state with NRCS urban conservationist that works with these issues and works with groups to improve resources in urban areas. And his name's Wayne Peterson, and I'm sure he's referenced in a lot of the information that's on that site.
Carol asks, can you explain the stenciled storm sewers? I think you may have just answered her question, but do you have anything to add to that?
It involves having a stencil that you then spray paint in the area around the storm sewer. Usually it's like maybe a picture of a fish and it says like no dumping, drains to stream or something along those lines on it that can be painted on the concrete to remind people where that water goes.
I really like the ones that would even say drains to your specific stream, like drains to the Cedar River, drains to Bear Creek, things like that. You also mentioned rain gardens, and I know there's a Pete Middle School in Cedar Falls has set up a rain garden outside or adjacent to the faculty parking lot and measures the runoff that goes off of that and the water quality. They took a little bit of water quality data in the semester before they added it and are using it to compare to what they have now. So that's a nice example of something that an urban school did as a project. I have a question from Rachel, and she asks, I recently watched a video about the health of the Mississippi River, and one interesting thing they mentioned was the effect of uh, tiling on sediment in rivers. I think we think of ag runoff as having chemicals, so I thought the sediment connection was interesting. Is the DNR doing anything to help farmers tile more effectively, keeping the sediment issues in mind?
Um, yeah, I'm not sure what they were talking about as far as where the sediment's coming from. Generally, in a tiled situation, you don't have a lot of sediment moving through the tile system. But what happens is once that water reaches a stream or a ditch, it has and it goes back to the dynamic equilibrium that I was talking about, that water then has more, since it's not carrying sediment, it has a lot of energy to pick up sediment, and so then it can cause erosion in that stream channel that's receiving that drainage and carry that material with it. Um, and my guess is that's where the sediment aspect is coming from, and also just the fact that these tile systems are moving the water more quickly to the stream, so it's increasing the stream flow and giving it more energy to erode the beds and bank, and the stream's adjusting. Um, there's a lot of sediment that's moved downstreams that comes out of the banks. If you remember in my presentation, the floodplain is a storage area for sediment. So it's sediment that the stream couldn't move at the time, but it's available there to be moved. And without healthy vegetation to help hold it in place, it can move quite easily during high flows.
We actually had a couple of people who submitted questions similar to this. Oops, I'm sorry, I released the different one. Let me ask this one first. Are there statistics or formulas to calculate the amount of runoff reduction when a filter strip is in place?
Yeah, there's a lot of models that have been developed, and uh, they've been improved and continue to be improved to more accurately reflect, you know, the reduction that would occur from, in a certain soil type with a certain slope. Like the Russell model that I showed, that's been improved upon, and there's a lot better data available now. They, we have higher resolution data to look at things like the slope and things like that of the land than were available in the past. So I think NRCS uses some of those formulas to calculate, um, and there's a lot of technologies that have developed recently that allow, better measurement and better, application of practices to get the best bang for the buck. But you might contact a lot of the if you look on the link to uh, the watershed portion of the DNR site, um, somewhere in there that they have listing of watershed projects that are going on. That would also be an opportunity to. They have watershed coordinators for a lot of those projects, and it'd be an opportunity to contact one of those people in your area and talk with them about uh, things that you might be able to do with your students, or at least maybe have them come and talk to your students about what's going on in one of their watersheds that's near them, and they would also uh, have a better idea of some of the models and the tools they use to do those types of calculations.
One of the things I'll do then is I know which link you're talking about. I'll mark that in our course so that it's easier for the participants to find that watershed projects list. Okay, here's the question that a couple people sent in. And it is with an increasing number of people using the water for leisure recreation activities, how has that affected Iowa's wildlife in the rivers?
I would think overall it's had a positive impact. Like I was talking before, anytime you can get people out there enjoying the resource and interacting with it, uh, you you create more concern in those people about the quality of the resource. Um, as far as negative impacts, in some really heavily used areas, I guess there's some potential for problems with litter and things like that. But I think by and large, it's a positive thing, having more and more people out there enjoying the resources of the rivers and stream and learning to appreciate them.
I'm going to try and get two more questions in. The first one is from Jeremy, and he asks, what are some of the areas that have changed the most and more flood-prone areas?
Um, I I guess some of uh, I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but um, just an example of an area of the state that's had some real struggles with with streams that are related to changes in some of the principal components I talked about would be in the Les Hills area in southwest Iowa. Um, and basically there, the reservoirs that were built on the Missouri River and the channelization of the river caused the bed of the river to actually cut down. And what that did in turn is made it so whenever the bed of a river goes down, then all the tributaries coming into it have to adjust to that. And so they start cutting down as well. And then the next stage, the banks start falling in because they become too tall to stand up. And so in southwest Iowa, what happened was many of their streams cut down and widened, and then they started losing bridges and infrastructure, and and then they went in and put sheet pile in to try to stabilize the bed of the stream, with the unintended consequence of then uh, stopping movements of catfish and making stretches of streams that no longer had catfish down there. And there's been some more recent uh, adjustments where they've gone back and modified those structures so they'll allow fish passage. But that's an area of the state that has has had some of the most dramatic changes to streams that we see in the state.
And this last question from Shannon, I'm sure a few of our participants are thinking of as well. She asks, is it possible for us to use parts of the PowerPoint presentation in our classrooms if we credit you, Greg?
Yes, that would be fine. And there's a lot of other people that I borrowed from to put that together too. Some are credited and some aren't, but as far as I'm concerned, if you want to use it in your classroom, that'd be just fine.